Hi, I'm Rasheed Ogunlaru, and I'm delighted to be here with Steve Noble, co-director of Alternatives. Yeah, Steve, I know that we're due to catch up and chat and so on, and there's two for the price of one, because I was delighted that you're here with your colleague from Alternatives, Mary, who I've just met. Mary, tell us a little bit about yourself whilst he's stuffing his face.
I want to tuck it as well. My name's Mary, and gosh, I've been coaching and working with people and just sharing space for a long time now, and I am privileged to work with Steve.
So is it Alternatives that you where the connection is? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. St James's, and
all the other rumours are untrue.
Well, for those who don't know about Alternatives, just tell us a word or two. Alternatives
is an amazing space that we have guest speakers, talks. It's really events to inspire, open the heart, spiritual exploration, and it's every Monday night. We have some phenomenal guest speakers, and at the weekend we have some amazing workshops. So yeah, I'm glad to be part of the Backhouse team where all the real stuff goes on.
and Steve, so Alternatives, you've been involved in Alternatives for some time. Tell us a little bit about how it was born and how you got involved.
Right. Well, it was born 30 years ago, a vision of Donald Reeves, the rector of the church, and Malcolm Stern. I came along in '92 as an audience member. I volunteered in '94, became a director in 2000, and it's a fantastic place. For me, it was a sanctuary, an oasis from a very stressful life. And I started seeing so many amazing presenters there. You know, anybody in the self-help, personal development, spiritual world, mostly they've gone through Alternatives. So I think that there's been a whole audience development over the last 30 years. We got a very intelligent audience because they've been exposed to so many things. Mm-hmm. And I think I've grown and met so many fantastic people. The Alternatives team, you met Mary here, the irrepressible Mary. Full of fantastic characters like Mary and myself. You know, it's a very creative place, and it's a real service, I think, to London, and also there's a kind of online presence, so people anywhere in the world can download stuff. So it's, and also I think the next generation. You know, I met an amazing 12-year-old the other day who's like a little awakened soul, and they're the ones we're hoping to serve as well.
I mean, you've just said something that I'm keen to just quiz and ask you a little bit more about. Have things changed over the years? I mean, we were just chatting off camera a while ago, a little about things like the workplace, a little bit about people and whereabouts they are in themselves, a little bit about relationships and so on. I'm curious to get a sense of, have you noticed a change in people and where it is that they're at? You just indicated it, Steve, that some people as young as 12 are awakened souls for one of the... have you both noticed in your individual work and collective work a change? So Mary, tell us, you work as a coach.
I do, and I do quite a lot of work in schools as well. And I think the difference between when you're working with young people and also, I say, sort of adults who have gone through different experiences, there is an energy that's coming through where they just get it so much more. I think they're really aware and they're awakened and they're absorbing information at a rate that is beyond anything I've seen, which I just think is exciting. It's really, I think they're a lot more open. And the connection to the world as a whole is a lot more intimate. With social media and Facebook, they're already engaging with people and different cultures and ideology much faster than we ever did. So I actually think it's a really exciting time,
Yeah, and Steve, for you, what are you noticing?
Well, over the last 30 years ago, there was a lot of pioneering. So Alternatives was a very pioneering organisation. But over the last 12 years or so, it's taken a real decision to become a more bridge. So bridging, practical, we talked about this before, it's about practical applications. It's not just about a talk on chakras. It's about, well, how do you work this energy into your relationships? How does it connect with your work? How does it impact on your health? So it's about how it changes your life. That's what we're interested in, not just come along to hear some academic. In fact, we don't really do academics very well. How can you change your life? How can you open and grow, embrace these new ideas and use them practically in your life?
I guess that's really important because depending where somebody is in their life and what's going on in their life is going to be spirituality or personal growth may not be the terms even in somebody's head.
Yeah.
They've just got whatever's going on in their life, or something that doesn't feel right, or they're uncomfortable, or there's something going on at work. So for you both, I guess for you both, what's your starting point with all of this stuff? Because you both work at Alternative, and you both work as coaches in different contexts, corporately, with individuals in schools and so on. So what's your starting point with all of this stuff about people on their journey? So Mary, for you, what's your starting point?
I think the thing is, it does come down to recognising, having that awareness of wanting to grow, wanting to change something. So I think it really is, first of all, that awareness and acknowledging if something doesn't feel right, if it's not sitting well, it's what is it? And I think it's really about the questioning process and internally going inwards and saying, well, you know, what is it that's not in flow? What is it that's not connecting? And then exploring where you can go to maybe get some questions answered, connect with people. And I think a real gem is looking at what you've learned in terms of to date. Our past journey tells us so much. It's like a storybook. And if you sort of flick through the pages without getting lost in them, those pages are just so rich and full of information that they already can provide a map for where you are at the moment and moving forward. But I think it's about that awareness and inquiry that's really key.
Yeah.
That would be my thing.
And Steve, for you, what's the starting point? Because I guess it's interesting what Mary was saying there, that if one can look through their story and flick through the story without getting lost in the pages.
Yeah.
I guess one of the problems is that people do get lost in the pages.
Everyday life, definitely. I think more, when I was younger, I didn't have much of a sense of, there wasn't many conversations around purpose or direction. It was more, get a job, earn money, support family. That was the kind of stuff. I didn't hear about values until I was in my mid-30s or late 30s. And when I heard the word value, I was, what on earth is that? So all these conversations are starting up about direction, purpose, values, what motivates you, what do you really want to get out, what inspires you. You know, people are now talking about, I want a job that inspires me. And when I was young, nobody used to talk about that. They were saying, I want a job that pays me more money or gives me a status. And now there's a lot more conversations around, you know, things like feng shui. I'm sitting on the bus hearing people talking about past lives or reading books about Taoism. You know, 30 years ago, you wouldn't even find that kind of stuff. So it's opening out into the collective more. So I think, you know, what seemed kooky 30 years ago, a bunch of flower power hippies, is now being accepted in the mainstream. Like a lot of these things, you know, like the language of Freud and Jung, it seemed kooky, but now it's kind of embraced. So I think that's our job, to help disseminate these kind of conversations, so people are starting to think about, what do I really want to do? Where's my, you know, flow? Mary's talking about flow. Nobody talks about flow before. What's my heart in it? You know, what am I inspired to do? This kind of stuff. And a lot of young people now are having these conversations, which is fantastic. You know, it doesn't mean you won't be lost still. I think even when you're younger, even though these conversations are going on, doesn't mean you can't be confused or lost or off track. But at least you've got some kind of conversation to orientate yourself if you've got the right people around you.
It can sometimes be almost overwhelming, can't it? Lots of these different terms that lots of people on these in spiritual circles will be familiar with.
Yes.
It is, on the one hand, something that seems to be about how somebody lives their life or how things are arranged in their home, like feng shui, or people. You talked about Taoism before. You know, there's so many different terms, and then people will be talking. One person in spiritual circles seems to be talking about past lives. Somebody else is just talking about personal development. Somebody's talking about angels, and you're thinking, what on earth, what planet are these people on? I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, Steve, I want to start off with you on this particular question, because you've been, from somebody who was brought up when none of this stuff was talked about, you've had exposure to all of it at Alternatives, all these different people coming along. Yeah. So what struck me when we were being interviewed by our good friend Simon on the sofa a while ago was that you've got a good way of being mindful of all of this kind of stuff and having spent a lot of time in and around all this stuff, but not being caught up in that particular stuff, and that struck me as quite rare and refreshing. But how is it that you found your way through all of this stuff, and how is it you help those people you can see coming through the door of somewhere like Alternatives, or just personally or privately, and you can see that they're on some kind of a journey? How is it that you've made sense of and not got caught up in this stuff? And how is it that you help those other people to find their own way in all of this stuff?
I think what I learned over all this time is that there's lots of models of reality, or lots of models of spirituality, or lots of definitions. And actually, I don't believe in one model or one definition, but I've been exposed to enough of them to see, does this one fit you? Does this one relate to you? Is this the kind of language that you speak that would speak to you? And so it's also helped me to adopt a more fluid, flexible mindset, that I'm not a devotee, I'm not a shamanic practitioner, but I have exposed to all of those things, and I love them all. But I've taken the labels off myself. And I was at Amma the other night being hugged, and I can all this devotional energy, it's wonderful. But I'm not a devotee, and I can go on. I know a lot of people into shamanism. It's a fantastic way of looking at the universe, but it's a model of reality. But you can get lost in the model and think, I found the truth. I think I'm old enough now to go, there are lots of ways in the truth, and what is truth, and I like the definition of effectiveness as measure of truth. It's the old Hawaiian proverb.
That's wonderful to hear. And Mary, for you, I'm fascinated. How did you? Maybe it'd be useful to tell a little bit about how you got involved in this particular world. And again, how you've negotiated your way through it, and how you help those other people who come to you, who are perhaps starting out on a journey, whether they know it or not.
I think mine is quite an unusual path, in the sense that from a very young age I used to journal a lot, and having sort of come from a varied childhood, sort of fostered back into my birth, with my birth parents, and the different cultures. So journaling for me was a great way of discovering more about myself.
So that's writing, just writing.
From the age of about, say, 11 or 12, I used to start journaling, and I was sort of joking, I've got, you don't want to know how many journals underneath my bed. A bit scary. And then when I was about 17, I had an encounter with a maths teacher in the school who gave me Ken Wilber's book, No Boundaries, and that for me was a real eye-opener, especially being a devout Christian and into prayer, but in more of a spiritual sense, I must admit. But that opened up my eyes a lot, and he was an ex-Hare Krishna, and we just used to sort of have chats, amazing chats, and I think for me it was a real journey at quite a young age. And then I think when I went to university, I decided to start a business that was helping students and people my age start their own business and have a second income, and a lot of that involved personal development. And so I used to actually bring over speakers from the States and all over about personal growth. So it kind of was a very unusual journey, but I think it opened my eyes quite quickly, and I found, but my mother's, sort of a minister, and I think I found that comfortable space, as Steve said, that the truth is what resonates with you, and so it needs to be fluid, because we change and our reality is very fluid. And I think if you have that space where you allow things to come into it, then it's easy for you to connect with lots of people around you without judgment. So
that's wonderful. Wow, how wonderfully rich. What a lovely conversation this is.
I'm so lucky to work with her, aren't I?
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, maybe just to close, because apparently they say that people have got short attention spans.
Yeah, put the kettle on.
And I'm sure, I know you, but it's a Friday night, so you want to have some fun, as they say, the weekend starts here.
Yeah.
But maybe just a closing word. Maybe it'd be lovely actually just to hear what are the things that you're working on at the moment? What is it that you're up to at the moment? And what things are really important to you at the moment? That might be just a lovely note to end up.
Mary, what triggered when she said about journaling, I'm passionate about creativity and the kind of freeing spirit of creativity, and I'm writing a fourth book. So I've kind of locked myself in this house with all these creative, I won't say mad creative people, they're fantastic photographers and painters, and I'm just sitting in this room by this writing desk with the kind of sunlight coming in and just having this creative explosion. So I'm into the creativity of writing at the moment.
Wonderful. And so if somebody's trying to track you down, first of all give us the alternatives to address, and then for your work, Steve.
Website is www.stevenobel, spelled Nobel.com.
Okay. And for alternatives, for those people keen to find out more about alternatives,
with an S at the end, .org.uk.
Wonderful. And again, Mary, for you, tell us what are you up to at the moment, and how can people reach you if they're keen to find out more about you.
I mean, I'm writing a book, my first book, unlike Steve, and I'm sort of doing some work in schools, working in companies. I do a lot of my coaching around the cooking theme and the metaphor of cooking. So,
right, send me a copy of that.
Yeah.
Free tasters.
And if you want to come into a few of the kitchens and really get your hands stuck in. So, but no, if you want to find me, my website is www.thelifechef, as in LIFECHEF.com.
Wonderful. Well, it's been such a pleasure to be here, sat with you both, and yes, so that's a lovely one. Thank you very much.
Well.